Ish.
We are home.
We are live.
Hello.
Yeah, it's good to have you again. Ish. We had you again, didn't we? Sorry, no,
Again.
sorry, we did. Yeah. It's my memory. It's just that I meet that many people. It's a shame. I'm so sorry. But welcome, guys, to This Is Marriage UK. We have Yasmine Udugba.
That's it.
Yeah. With us today. And let me tell you guys, she is the living half of frankness.
Yeah. One of the top 5 brave women I know.
They put it out there, and thank God for them like that. And we appreciate, do you know something? It's like when God allows us to go through things, and you still hold on. I think there's an amazing amount of glory that he must get when people don't just walk away or blame him. It's tough. I'm sitting here as someone who hasn't gone through what you've gone through, but when you still say God is God, God is everything. And we're going to find out how and why. I want to talk about that as well. How and why. And just want to let you guys know before we go into it, which is really what I want to do. Thank you, Natasha. This is the channel where we have those discussions that have always been challenging.
I think it's the discussions that you usually have in your head. We bring them out loud. And then you're not suffering in silence anymore. You're not suffering alone in your head. We're having it out there, and then you realize, oh, I'm not the only one with a belly. Do you know what I mean? I'm not the only one with it, that everyone's got it. So that's why we are proud to have the guests that we have on who are willing to tell you that you are not alone.
That's right.
Yes. So thank you, Yasmine. Thank you. And to be fair, tell us who you are, what you do for a living, how many children you got, putting grey hairs on your head and all that. How many years married and all that? Yeah, go ahead.
All that jazz. Cool. Hi, everyone. I am Yasmine. Firstly, a huge thank you to Curtis and Juanita for having me here at This Is Marriage UK. It's always such a privilege to just share, and just as we continue to build our relationship, it's just great to be able to be with you guys. So thank you. I am married to Efe. We've been married now for 11 and a half years, together for 15 in June. We're 14 and a half years together in June. We'll have been together for 15 years. Still madly in love, still the best of friends, even through the highs and lows. And we've got 3 beautiful children together. So we've got Zachary, who's 9, Elia, our daughter, who is 7, and Saraya, our wild child toddler, who is 2 and almost 3, and keeps us on our toes. I mentor young people who are at risk of kind of like criminal sexual exploitation, and just having a difficult time in life. And I just always find that a huge privilege, because there's nothing better than to sit on the other side of the table, having kind of empathy and compassion for the person on the other side, to be able to say, I know how it feels. I've experienced some of those things, and this is how I got through it. So that's like kind of sharing my story is part of my day-to-day life. And so I do that more on a self-employed basis. And Efe and I have got sort of a couple of businesses. Efe's got a couple of businesses. And so we just, we serve quite a lot in our local church, part of the leadership team there. So, we haven't got much going on at all. At the local homeless shelter, which I love to do. I'm school governor, really quiet, peaceful.
Simple life.
What you're really saying is that you've got nothing to complain about.
No time on your hands.
Because you don't have time to complain. That's what it is.
Exactly. We just keep going until we need a holiday.
Yeah, you know what? We came across you guys whilst we were in a conference, and it was a pleasure. We don't know who people are when we look at their images.
Yeah.
But obviously we want to get the cocos on at some point soon.
Yeah.
And you guys were a great team to get to know, and you know what it is, it's the way we relate to each other. I want you all to know that these are real people, right? And interestingly, this is the thing. Let's start here.
Okay.
I was going to say before you
Oh,
start,
no, go on.
that when we did the conference, the connection came quite naturally.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, the only thing that's got in the way is family and everyday life, but the connection between us, all of us who did the conference, was very natural. It was like, man, this has been ordained and put together. Do you know what I mean? So it was something that we weren't just doing a gig and then hopping out. We were actually forming relationships and friendships from people who we saw were authentic and people who we saw were telling a very similar story to us. Do you know what I mean? So we just want to thank you for being yourself at that time and for us being able to, you letting us in to start building this relationship.
Yeah. By the way, people, if you see me dribbling or spitting, it's because I've had a tooth taken out today and it's killing me.
No joke.
And this is just starting to come around now. So the dribbling might ease up near the end of the show. So forgive me if you see me talking funnies, because I got madness going on here.
That is the cause, Curtis, that you're like, do you know what? I'm going to the dentist, having some work done. I'm still here showing up.
Do you know what? It was supposed to be just a crown. And he said to me, your tooth's cracked right down the middle. I was like, oh no. And he started to give me all these horror stories, like telling me he's going to drill out my head and get pliers and stuff. And I was like, are you serious? And then he didn't even tell me anything. He just put a needle in my mouth without saying anything. And I was like, what are you doing?
Then he said, cling, cling, cling.
Then he went, I was like, oh, right, that's what we're doing today.
Yeah.
So here we are, man. But here we are. So this is it. You meet FA. And you're like, eventually you're like, this is the guy. He was the guy.
Yeah.
Because he still is the guy.
He is the guy.
He is the guy. And you knew that from day.
Yeah.
And, you know, that honeymoonish phase, it hides a lot.
It does.
And I guess, and we watch these reality shows as well. And we're like,
just one.
Actually, one. Well, yeah, and you see we're looking at these couples who get married, and we're looking at the build up, and then we look at the wedding and stuff, and we're like, we sit there and we're like, you don't know who each other are. You just don't know, right? And that's the thing. We really do not know who even probably we are in many ways.
True.
And entering into this lifelong contract union is it is only when you get married and only when you start living with each other, and maybe only when you lose some sleep and only when you have your children and you can't focus and you got work or you got certain things going on, that you start to recognize, hold on, there's a lot more.
Yeah.
And then the dream is just crumbling. Do you know what I mean? And where do you want to take us on this journey? I mean, where do you want to start on the whole issue of marriage, trauma, and your story? Where do you want to go with it? Where do you want to start?
So I think it's really important to identify kind of like what trauma is, because I feel like often we think about trauma being like these big one-off life events, but you know, there is like lots of various different forms of trauma. So
imagine that.
I'm here.
That's right. So I'm going to just cover kind of, there's like three, I suppose trauma can fall into three kind of main areas. The first one is acute trauma. So it's kind of like one single distressing or dangerous event. So it might be, it might be like, you know, breaking your leg, like you're playing football, break your leg, and oh my goodness, that's one single event of trauma. Then you've got kind of what we call chronic trauma, which is where you have like repeated exposure to prolonged and highly stressful situations or circumstances. Yeah. So that could be you know, various things like kind of your sexual and emotional abuse, domestic violence, any of those things. And then you've got complex, which is the result of exposure from multiple traumatic events. And so that is actually sometimes like the long-term effects of trauma that we live with. Now, a lot of that trauma, particularly kind of in the formative years from 0 to 6 years old, you know, those formative years, I really, really strongly believe that they have such a huge, profound effect on our brains, on our minds, on our character shaping going forward. They kind of lay that foundation. Even if, you know, for those of us that might have children, if you think when they get to 6 or 7, they've already got their kind of own formed opinions, their ideas about things, their kind of strength. You can really see the strength in their personalities. And so when that, particularly from 0 to 6 years old, is distorted, it kind of paves the way for, I suppose, almost like a rocky next few years. So, you know, there's people watching tonight, maybe they've experienced like domestic abuse, emotional abuse, manipulation. Maybe it's been a single time, you know, form of kind of that acute trauma. Maybe it's been a really damaging relationship. Like for me, I know that when I met Efe, I'd come out of a really difficult period of life, and you have to remember, you carry that baggage wherever you go unless you really deal with it. So if you imagine, you know, you're here, the next, you know, you meet someone, you come together, but behind you is all of this baggage. It could be family, sexual, emotional, your own rejection issues. There's so much. And then you come together and it's like, well, how are these two people supposed to just actually like figure this out? And
can I just ask you to go back a little bit on the 3? So like the first trauma, when you spoke about, what was that called?
So that's acute trauma. So that's
acute
like
trauma. Yeah. That's like something, a one-off major event. So say, for example, it was a tsunami in your country or an earthquake. Yeah. That would be acute trauma. Then the second one was?
Then you've got chronic, which is repeated exposure to prolonged, like highly stressful events. So, you know, we could potentially say that this last year of lockdown for a lot of us has probably created some form of chronic trauma for some people on a day-to-day basis. For some people, that might be like, oh, that was a tough year, the toughest year I've ever had, because they might have never experienced any form of trauma or difficulty.
Yeah,
and then you've got complex, which is the results from exposure to traumatic circumstances. And that is often one of the things that we carry in us around.
That's what is lived out.
Yeah, essentially, okay. Yeah.
And then you mentioned that then you meet somebody, and as we see it on the movies, they always say you meet someone in the coffee shop in Brooklyn or in Manhattan, you call out for a taxi, you jump in it, you go back to his loft apartment, which is just crisp, shiny wooden floors, white bed sheets. You jump in there, you get on with it, you get out, and life is just so easy. There's no bags at all. So what are you telling us, that now we're saying that two human beings meet and they're packed with stuff, including trauma?
Yeah, and if you don't, it depends, right? So some people carry trauma around, but nobody knows about it. Nobody knows about it. The pain, it could be a really difficult. My parents, one of the traumatic experiences I had in my childhood, my parents went through a horrifically traumatic divorce. It was pretty horrendous. And I've got memories as a kid of being hidden. Like, so say on a weekend that it was my mum's weekend that she would have us, I've got memories where we'd go to my uncle. My dad would be banging down the door because my parents had had a row, and we've hopped over my uncle's fence and jumped into his next door neighbours that we knew, her house, and had to hide behind the sofa. And my dad banging down her door saying, "Where are my children? Where are my children?" Now, they're the kind of things that kind of like just settle in you somewhere, and they go somewhere. And whether we like it or not, those moments stick with us, right? Yeah. So just not last year, the year before, we were doing some premarital counselling with a couple. We really love to invest into people as they embark on their, as they're in their engagement period and they're about to embark on the journey of marriage. Because one of the things in life that I've always wondered, we go to antenatal classes if we're having babies. Yeah, it's across the board. To take your driving test, take a theory test, you take your practical. There is nothing really around apart from great resources like you guys, which is really important. Like for the classes. So if you are a Christian and you are kind of part of a faith community, often you will find that there are those resources. But for the everyday kind of person who's not involved in a faith community, if you've not had a good example of that, what on earth do? You just meet that person, you know, like you go to the loft, you enjoy that taxi ride and you have a fun time. But the reality is that when the rubber hits the road, like, what are you going to do? How are you going to figure this out?
Yeah.
And so we were doing premarital counselling with a couple. And one of the things that I don't know, well, I do now, but I really battled with was like decision making. And I'm talking like basic decision making. So if we were going to get it away, oh, what do you want? I don't mind, babe. What do you want? I don't mind. What do you want? Like, decision. I just like, oh, choosing something to buy. Oh, but if I get that, should I get that? Like backwards, forwards. And I was thinking, this is long. Like, it takes up a lot of headspace in my mind as to like basic decisions. I'm not even talking like. And I was driving while we were doing this couple's premarital counselling, like before the evening session started. And I said to God, I was just driving. I said, God, why do I struggle to make decisions? So, like, you know, what is so hard for me to just say yes, no, or I don't like that, or whatever. And he just, like, the Holy Spirit just really showed me this picture of me in my headmaster's office when I was maybe like 9 years old, maybe 9 or 10. And basically my dad had turned up to school. So we went to private school, me and my sister, we went to private school up until year 6. And so it was quite a small community. The teachers were very aware of what was going on with my parents. And the headmaster came to me to the classroom and said, Yasmine, I need to talk to you. Could you like come to my office? So I was like, yeah, cool. No, 2:30 in the afternoon. And they got my sister out of her classroom, and I can see myself now as I'm talking to you, standing as a little like 9-year-old girl in his office. And he said, whose weekend is it this weekend? And I said, oh, my mum's. And he said, okay, well, your dad's turned up to pick you up. And who do you want to go with? Now, I've got a 9-year-old son, and truthfully, he's quite grown up for his age, but truthfully, like, the biggest responsibility a 9-year-old should be wondering, are they going to get a McDonald's on the weekend, and what Pokemon game are they?
Put your Lego away.
Yeah. You like it was, you know, and then I was responsible for my sister in that moment as well. So if I choose my mum, my dad's going to be upset. If I choose my dad, my mum's going to be upset. Everybody else is going to be upset. And I can't even consider myself or my sister's feelings in that. And so like, God, for me, my faith journey is a really important part of my kind of trauma and healing and restoration, because honestly, it's really been helpful to just ask God those questions. And for me, I grew up as a Muslim. So my dad's Pakistani. My mum is not a Christian. My family don't have a faith at all yet. And my mum's English. And, you know, my parents split up probably when I was about 3 and spent a long time getting back together, separating, getting back together until about, I suppose, about 9 or 10, they decided, okay, this really isn't working. Like, we can't make this work. But, you know, those years from like 3 to even 9, 6 years of he's back here, we're making it work. No, it doesn't work. Oh, that's like a lot for.
And you're saying that plays with your decision making even now as an adult.
Like, absolutely, because it's a constant. And I've been having counselling since about June last year, and that for me has been something that I've really been able to unpack. Like like I've basically been able to identify that I kind of didn't really have like little Yasmine didn't really have a voice, because she was always concerned about keeping the peace between my mum and dad and making sure that my sister was okay. Like, not in everything, like, but the kind of general consensus. And so that's led into my adulthood, where I'm like, oh, I don't mind. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, whatever you want. Like, and now here I am, 35, a mum of 3 children, where I'm like, oh, this voice that I'm using, it does work. I can say what I actually think. But that's hard. Like, F.A. and I have been married, you know, 11 and a half years. And even now I'm like, but if I really, you know, and it's great, because that is a safe space for me to be able to test it out on. But I'm here, 35 years old, chatting to you guys, still thinking, do I have value? Am I allowed to have value? should I value my own life? You know, like that is like those childhood moments, without a doubt.
Can I look at that for a second?
Go for it.
There's two questions I have for you.
Yeah.
I might blend it into one.
Yeah.
You're getting married.
Yeah.
Did you not know that you had these issues in the background, which are really governing a lot of your function? And two, you mentioned just now self-doubt? What would you call that?
Yeah, like just doubting yourself all the time. Yeah.
And how does that affect, or how did that, or does that affect? Because I believe that a lot of people still are in a very questionable place because they haven't been able to stop and ask themselves, what and why am I doing this?
100%.
So you'd expect someone at 35 to say, come on, snap out of it now.
Yeah.
You should have snapped out of it by now. Yas, what's going on? And yet you're here admitting it. But did you not know that you had this before you got married?
Yeah, that's a
two
great
questions. I've mixed them up, but yeah.
No, that's cool. Just just make sure that I cover ground on both, so that the answer's cool. So I think the answer is definitely yes. So Efe and I met in I'll just give a bit of context because it helps with it. So Efe and I met in a garage rave in Southend. Loved a bit of garage. At the weekend, Heartless Crew was on with GT Continental and we were raving it up in our lounge. Like, if you don't know who Heartless Crew is in the audience, then you're too young to appreciate.
You missed it, man. You missed it.
Just saying. But it was, we met in a garage rave. We met through some mutual friends and we just built a really great friendship very quickly. And one of the things that I suppose I battled from kind of those early years, in 9, 10, 11, is I'd always had a really difficult relationship with my dad. So this will be a bit of lots of things in the answer. But I think that when the parent-child relationship is distorted, whether it's mother-child, parent-child, it's father-child, whatever it is, I can only speak for me, right? But I've seen it in years across people that it creates some really unhealthy character traits in us. Wow. And so for me, like how my children are embraced and they feel safe in mine and Efe's arms, I genuinely don't know what that feels like from my dad or from my mum.
Yeah.
I don't have any, even to hug my mum now sometimes feels uncomfortable. And that stems from some of her childhood issues that she hasn't actually dealt with. And the same for my dad. And I've had a long kind of up-down relationship with my dad. So through my teenage years, I was just desperate to be loved. Like, I just want to pause and say, dads, if you have got girls, and I'm not saying that boys don't need to be loved because if you've got girls, they need to come to you and feel safe and secure, and you need to date them. And, one of the things Efe will often do to look at, he'll hold the girl's hands and he always says to Elia, if your hands never, she's only 7, but the kids these days are growing up very fast.
Yes.
And he always says to her that if your hands don't ever feel safe in the arms of, another man when you're older, you need to remove your hand, because it's a very short time that we get with them. It's a very short time. And by the time they're 13, really, Efe's mum, my mother-in-law, has this saying with lots of Nigerian proverbs. She says, you bend a tree while it's young. At 13, it's a lot harder to invest into your children because there's a lot more noise than it is every moment. And so for me, those teenage years, I was just desperate to be loved. And I did lots of things that I'm really not proud of. And, but, here we are. And so just to kind of add into your question, Curtis, at 17, I was gang raped by 4 people. Well, a guy that I was seeing and his 3 friends, because I can't really talk about meeting Efe without that not being part of the story. And I am an overcomer of that. I have overcome that, and I don't actually see myself as a victim from that. Which I'll touch on in a little while, because that's been a really interesting thing to unpack in my counselling. But when I met Efe, I knew that I was flawed, and I met him, and he was drop dead gorgeous. He had a really, he had a good job. He was actually a really decent human being, and I was like, I don't deserve him. Yeah. Like, why would someone like me deserve him? And within probably maybe a good couple of months of us dating, I then told him what had happened to me. And at that point, I hadn't really gone through what I would call my kind of journey of forgiveness towards the guys that it happened to, but the guys that did that to me. But I just remember him being like getting really angry. Even now, and I go into schools with one of my good brothers, who I work for in mentoring, and I share my story. Well, when you can go into schools, we do assembly, and I share my story. So I talk about it often, but even now, if they just like, it just literally something that just breaks my heart to think that that has happened and that is part of your story. So when I met Efe, I was broken and really longing to be loved. But honestly, I absolutely adore my husband. But the thing I needed most was access to my faith. Like, for me, just to come into relationship with Jesus. I would say very much for anyone who's listening that might be like, oh, here's the God thing again. Really, I'm not religious. I just have a faith and a friend in Jesus. And that's been a really important part of my journey. One of the things that really helped us was premarital counselling. As you can probably tell, I really enjoy talking. But said to Efe, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good is Yasmine talking? How good is Yasmine about talking about her emotions? He'd probably say about a -6. Wow. At the time when we met, so that was like 2006, and we did our pre-marriage prep in 2007 in the June. He would say about a -6. Now, if you ask him, I reckon I'm a strong 8. So that's a lot of like hard work and progress there. But in my family, we didn't talk about emotion. Like, we didn't talk about how we were feeling. I vividly remember going downstairs when I was 17. Obviously, I'd been raped in the February, and I remember vividly 6, maybe 8 weeks later, going downstairs and saying to my mum, I can't sleep. Like, I've got flashbacks, and she'd be like, oh, just go upstairs. That happened a few months ago. Like, and it's been, it's very interesting to, your surroundings help to shape you, right? Yeah. Your environment shapes you. So if your environment doesn't encourage you to talk about how you're feeling and to let your emotion and to have difficult conversations, how do you know how to do that? I'd just seen screaming and shouting, rowing, slamming doors, and kind of all other really uncomfortable things. And so I met Efe, and I was like, oh, we actually have to talk about things and face things that we don't want to do. And honestly, it's been a really difficult journey to face yourself, to face the quiet inside parts of yourself is probably the most courageous thing anybody will ever do. Yeah. Honestly. So
as you're saying that though, I'm thinking about my own childhood and upbringing, which was surrounded by a lot of domestic violence, and that voice was like, can't make the decision even now at 46, still struggle with it. Whether, you know what I mean, you go IKEA or are you going to Tesco, which I don't know, like, can't we just do both? Like, can't you just make up your mind for me, Kat? Make up my mind for me? And I totally relate to that. But I remember when we first started dating and we were play fighting and Kurt's hands were going near here. Yeah. And I was like, I switched. Like, no, you don't do that. And he's looking at me like, why did you switch? Like, maybe you ain't the one for me.
That was the introduction to, there's a lot more here. But we were engaged then.
Yeah, we were engaged and we had a very short engagement. So it was just like, right, we're full steam ahead, we're going. But that was like the first, like, no, you can't. This is what I saw. And it's taken, 20 years together, but we still have to open that bag and say, and this is where this affects me here. And this is what spilled over into here. So the struggle to go to IKEA or to Asda or Tesco is still difficult. A difficult thing to decide, because the decision-making part of myself, or that confidence maybe, wasn't formed as well as it should be, as it should have been.
Absolutely.
So I totally relate there. And then when you come together and you feel, you're issue-free or baggage-free, we're just getting married and we love each other. We're getting married, and then this stuff starts coming up and you're like, what the heck is this?
And you know what happens as well? That was the introduction. I didn't have the skills to address it. And so we got married, and even now for both of us, there are things that come up that we've known about for years, but they are not cured.
Absolutely.
What do you say to that?
I think it is a process. When you are committing to marriage, I think one of the things that I've been really thinking about lately is that the Instagram algorithm, right? The Instagram algorithm is messing with people's levels and understanding of what is good and what is picture perfect. Because I think we have to remember that marriage is a commitment to a journey. It's in the moments where I don't feel like myself, or when I've, at the end of a day where I've had 3 kids and I'm, my hair's scrunched up and I'm in my gym gear, and it's my husband coming and embracing me and saying, babes, I absolutely, you're looking great today, babes. And just like, that's a really baseline example, but I think it's being committed to the journey. And I read something the other day that says, actually, this person had been married maybe like 60, 70 years. And they talked about actually coming to terms with the idea that when you are in marriage for a good, strong length of time, that you're committing to the idea of being married to maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different types of people, i.e. types of Yasmine, right? So, wow. And I was like, that is actually so true, because the Yasmine that I currently am is not the Yasmine that even 5 years ago, I just wasn't the same person.
I've changed in the year. I think everyone's changed this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, even from starting my counselling in June to then now, here we are in February, I know that I'm different, because some of the things that I may have, boundaries that I put in place to protect myself, conversations that I am now prepared to have that perhaps I wasn't willing to have. I think this year for me, my birthday was on January the 15th, and honestly, I don't know why, but around my birthday.
We say anymore. We saw your birthday present, and a lot of us guys were shamed.
Yeah,
and there's no way.
He was representing you well. Come on, Curtis. He was just representing
COVID. A lot of guys were sitting down thinking, how am I going to make my wife happy? Do something special. If you go on Yasmine's Insta page, we'll put it up in a little while. You will see what they did.
He absolutely smashed it. It was like
It
was like a dome. It reminded me of Christmas.
It was like a bubble, like one of those plastic igloo kind of bubble domes. And I was 35, so it wasn't a big birthday, but I suppose midway through the decade. But in the caption, if you head to my page after this and you read my caption, this is the thing that I need people to understand, is that all of that shiny, beautiful, romantic stuff, there's a line in what I wrote that says, there's no point icing the cake if the cake won't stand. And that is true with our marriages, right? If our marriages are the cake, there is no point trying to I see it when the cake's too hot, it all melts and flops off, or you know, like you haven't let it cool down properly, or you've not put the right ingredients in. I know it's a bit of a cliche example, but it's true.
No, it's
so
real.
For me, this birthday, it wasn't even like that. All of that stuff for me was really was the icing. And I tell you why, because every year on my birthday, and I don't know, well, I do know why, because I'd always get these kind of like, when I was younger, again, back in my childhood years, I would always be like, oh, whose weekend is it? Where am I going to be at my birthday? Am I going to be at my mum's or my dad's? Am I going to be able to keep the peace? Is an argument going to kick off? Like that kind of Christmas around my birthday, I just always found just a difficult period of time as a kid. And I think I almost subconsciously, and that's the thing, it's subconscious, a lot of these things. I then subconsciously carried that into my marriage and was like, oh, well, my birthday can never be good because FA and I will probably just have a row. Okay. You know, one year he had to, for work, he was working for a company based in Austin and they had their big conference, and it just meant that he was not here because, you know, he had to fly and be away for work, and it is what it is. And I remember just sitting in my house thinking, oh, you know, yeah, this is what I deserve. And that was probably like maybe 6 years ago. Like that's
Wow.
that's what you deserve, to just be relaxing on your own. But this year, having specifically done my counselling and thinking, no, I am worth something. I do believe that my voice is valuable. I do believe that I have something to offer people. I think for me, that's why it was so special. Like the words and the love that people wrote in my cards or would send me on a voice note, or I just really soaked it all in. Whereas before I would park it and be like, oh yeah, that's a really nice thing for them to say. But they're saying that because it's my birthday, so I have no choice.
You took it in.
This year, I just soaked it all in, and it was honestly really a life-changing for me. I'm not even, it was just like, and that for me was why what FA did was so special, because I actually could receive it. I was like, I actually really, we've got a good thing. And it, you know, he just, one of his kind of love languages is that kind of the gift giving, and he loves to do that. And yeah, so I think for me, it's like, you're committing to a journey. So like when you're in your marriage, you're saying, hey, and FA said to me for a long time, he did 2 years worth of counselling in 2016. We had a really, really difficult period in our marriage where honestly, I just didn't think we were going to make it through. And so I think it's really important for people to hear that, because when you invest into your marriage and you are passionate about marriage, you do still have difficult times. I don't want it to look like we're shiny and have got it all together.
Yeah,
you do still have difficult times. What the difference is that our hearts were committed to making it work. It would have been easier. There were moments in that year, 100% in that year, 18 months, it would have been easier to say, do you know what?
Forget it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We thought we had a good thing. Thank you for a great time. Honestly, and there were moments that for me were more courageous to stay in those moments. But he did a good two years worth of counselling himself, and he kept saying to me, babe, you need to have counselling. It's the most life-changing thing you will ever do, because FA had, you know, a difficult upbringing himself. There's lots of abandonment issues, and you know, lots of different things. And
Wow.
Yeah, we're just like two trauma-ridden people coming together, trying to fumble our way through life. Thank God.
You know what it is? You know what it is? Because you have a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Which is a gift, and it cannot. It's hard to perceive what you're saying. You're marrying up the challenges that you had, and I'm seeing all this energy, and it doesn't add up. You know, a genuine smile that we can see now does not equate to someone who's been through a lot.
Yeah.
And that moves me on to another question, actually.
I was going to say, before you ask the question, we just want to thank those who have joined already. We've got Artina again from Canada, which is really nice. It's always nice to know that someone's listening from far away in a different time zone. It just makes you feel really special. So thank you for joining us again. And Tasha, Liv, Sophia, thank you. Yeah, so thank you for your comments so far, but please feel free to ask questions. I know it's a tricky topic and it's a narrative-based one, but you are welcome to send your questions in, and if we have time, we will answer them if they remain appropriate. But thank you.
So I'm typing and talking. It doesn't add up.
Okay.
That you've been, and I know you guys have been through much more.
Yeah.
Than your smile would have us believe, or your energy. And I know that you've been through a lot more, because we've spoken, and you've been through a lot more than you can explain in this show. It would be for another day, maybe.
Definitely.
I'm asking, are you cured?
I think it's an ongoing process. I think, for example, let me give you an example. So with my gang rape, for example, I came to a faith relationship with Jesus 2007 at the end of this month, literally in the next, I think 25th of Feb it was, 2007. And I went on a journey, and a few months in, I just really felt God say to me, you need to forgive those guys. And I was like, no, that's my hurt to carry. No. And interestingly, so I met Effie in the June, and in the December, we had this very drunken conversation. No, November. In the November, we were at my uncle's house. We'd been for a family barbecue, and we went to the Tesco Express. It's a bit of a random story, but we went to Tesco Express, and we had to get some, I don't know, some stuff. And he looked at me in Tesco, how romantic, and said, I love you so much, babe, but I just don't know how this is going to work. You're Muslim. I was brought up in a Christian family, although he wasn't really walking in faith at the time. I was brought up in a Christian family, like, this is not going to run. And I said to him, at that point in my life, personally, without him, I'd just been getting to the stage where I just thought, we have got to be here for more than the here and now. Like, how do we just come, live our life, die, and that's it? I was just like, there's got to be a purpose. Like, there's got to be more to our existence than you come, live your life under immense stress, and then die. Like, what kind of life is that? And I said, I was going on a work trip. I was doing my kind of placement year with my dad for his business at the time. And I said, what would you say if I said I'd come to church with you when I come back from China? And he was like, what? I said, yeah. But I need you to know that I'm actually not coming for you. I'm coming for myself.
Wow. You go for this.
He was like, okay, cool. Like, cool. So I went to China to do that. And I said, okay, so first Sunday, it was December, and I went with him, and the sermon was on forgiveness, and basically how if you don't forgive the pain for the person who's done you wrong, honestly, it's like putting yourself in prison and locking the key and not even keeping the key. It's like throwing it away into the sea so far that you'll never find it again. And, you know, the pastor at the time was just sharing like some of his real life stories. And I was like, honestly, I was in a room of 300 people, and I just felt like it was just a me and God moment. There's no other way I can really explain it other than I just felt like, you know, in films when you see that kind of like hallelujah moment where that like one-to-one moment, I was sobbing. I was hysterical, like snot, the tears. It wasn't pretty. And we'd been together not even 6 months at this point. And Effie kept getting up to get me tissue. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, okay, like, oh my goodness, let me just park that. I just was like, wow, this is a lot. And a few months in, I just felt the Lord really say, you need to forgive these boys. And so I just went on a process with that. I think I still go on a process with that. I 100% am free of what happened, to the point where actually, hand on heart, I could actually invite them around for dinner and say, cool, come and
Now,
I feel no malice in my heart towards them, and that is a hard and beautiful place to be. FA, on the other hand, is definitely not there. But interestingly, because I've always been like, I've overcome it. I don't see myself as a rape victim. I see myself as a rape overcomer. Yet in my counselling just 2 weeks ago, she said, but have you ever allowed yourself to, my counsellor said to me, have you ever allowed yourself to be the victim? And I was like, well, no, I haven't. And, because as a child, I was used to being the fixer, making sure that everyone was peaceful, trying to hold the fort and, juggle things with my mom and then my dad. And no, what do you mean? I don't know what to be a victim. And I vividly remember a few months after it happened, sitting in a restaurant with my mom and a friend of hers. And I said, I think I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to start a charity for teenagers that have been raped. So that is how kind of ingrained fixing things was into who I was.
So what are you saying? Are you saying that you feel that you should be a victim for a while as a part of the process?
I think it's important to acknowledge that something traumatic, well, for me, that was kind of, I suppose, there was an element of acute trauma, but also then the complex trauma, because it then carries you, it changes your outlook on life. And so, yeah, I think you have to be able to, having had that conversation a couple of weeks back, I think you have to be able to acknowledge something horrible and traumatic and difficult has happened, and you in that moment were a victim.
Wow.
I was a victim, and that is okay to say. But it's difficult. Sorry, Curtis. It's difficult as someone who now sits in the overcomer, in the I've overcome this, I've forgiven it. It's almost like letting myself be the victim, like me giving myself permission to be the victim. Because this year was 18, so February the 9th for me it's a weird thing to think about as an anniversary, but I do every year and most days, so it is what it is. And this year I remember vividly, I was brushing my teeth, it was about 12 o'clock at night as we were going into the 9th, and I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, you've got to start to let her go. That 17-year-old hurt Yasmine, you've got to let her go. And I was telling my counsellor this, and she said, I think you need to make friends with her because I don't think you've done enough work and you need to tell her story. So I think cure is a strong word. I think it's an ongoing process. I think you have to be, again, trauma is something you've got to be committed to dealing with. So I think there's some trauma that you can, like, it happens and you process it healthily with a safe space, etc. And then it's not that you're not, it's like you can talk about it almost like divorced of the emotion because you've processed it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But like the trauma that I've experienced, so intimacy in our marriage, I don't pull no punches. There are certain elements of our sex life that we can't be as free in because of the effects of what happened to me. On that day. And that is something that we've had to talk about. We've had to, discuss at length. It's not an easy conversation. And I do believe that God, I do believe in the power of healing and restoration, but healing or kind of forgiveness and restoration are two very different things. And so I think it's really important for people to know that if, say, for example, they've experienced some kind of abuse, you can forgive, or you might choose not to. But if you're going on a journey of forgiveness, you can bring freedom to yourself by choosing to forgive. That doesn't mean you have to be restored to that person or abuser or individual. You don't need to go and say, I forgive you.
Yeah, because we don't want people on the stage who have not been through it to have a version of forgiveness and impose on others how they ought to process this. And I know pastors can do this, and it means that you have to skip
Yeah.
imperative stages of the process in order to, at the end of the day, shine as if you've met God, the Holy Spirit done his work. But like you're saying, the Holy Spirit, the work involves going to an uncomfortable place and sitting around a dinner table with that uncomfortable person, experience, and this is my thing. You have to be reasoning with your enemy, not you. You have to reason with your enemy. Yeah? No. You have to reason with your enemy and say that my dad did that.
Yeah.
At least by yourself or with him, say this is what happened, and embrace how you feel, and tell yourself this is what I'm feeling. I could yap on. We have a question for you.
Yeah.
We haven't got enough time to do everything. I mean, I've got questions, but here we go. Someone's asking, and I don't know if Efe gonna fly on with his.
Is Efe got F? Do you want to come downstairs? Let's see.
Is Efe coming downstairs? Because someone asking a question, bro.
Yeah.
We can give him a minute to come down and then ask this in
it's a good question that I've just seen about how your husband was able to process that.
Yeah. Should we hold tight? We'll hold tight if you decide to make an appearance. But this one says, I struggle with allowing myself to be the victim because I had been taught that I was always to blame. What would you say to Natasha?
I think that's a very difficult place to be, Natasha. And so firstly, even just writing a comment, I just want to commend you. Even just writing a comment and popping a question in there is a huge step. I think actually you have to unravel that. And I think it's a really difficult thing to unravel. And I would really recommend sitting with someone in counselling or therapy, mainly because it is a space where sometimes when we try and unravel it with either the person who maybe blamed you, let's say it was a parent, I don't know, but let's say it was a parent, to then sit with them and to have that conversation, it doesn't actually move you along because you're then trying to defend your case, they're trying to defend their case, and it doesn't quite work. But what counselling or that space enables you to do is that it just gives you a minute to breathe and sometimes connect the dots. But I think the first thing to acknowledge is maybe start looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I'm not to blame. It wasn't my fault. I had, especially when you're the child, I think the difficult thing when you are the child in any, like when you've been told that you were to blame, maybe it was a sibling but when you are that child and you've been taught, okay, well, it's always my fault. It's a very difficult pattern of behavior to unlearn. So if a relationship doesn't work, that's my fault. If my marriage didn't work or isn't working, that's my fault. It's all the issues are on me because you're conditioned to that pattern of behavior. The wonderful thing is that our brain has the ability to build new neurological pathways. So that thought process, you can actually re-divert it. So that is the hopeful thing that you need to take away, is that you can re-divert it and your patterns of behavior can change. But I do think reasoning it with yourself, the thing when we're taught that we're something as a child, it's very difficult to unpack it. The thing to understand is that as a child, you are this innocent, you're relying on everybody else. So your conditioning is based on maybe one or two people's experience, and then they create this environment, and then here you're found in it. And for some kids, it's a really great experience, and for others, it's not a great experience. And so I'll give you a bit of an example of that. Is that one of the things that Efe and I kind of used to say to our kids is like, if they're a bit like, oh, I don't like this dinner, or oh, this is so boring, or whatever, we'd say, trust me, guys, you don't know that you're born. Like, you don't know you've been born. Like, as in, you've got it so good. You've got two parents that love you. You're in a safe house. There's always food in the fridge. Praise God for that. And we're a happy family. And going into my counselling, I was like, do you know what? It's not actually their fault that we had difficult upbringing. So every child's right, really, is to be loved in a safe space. Oh, here's FA. Is to be loved in a safe space, in a safe environment with heating and clothes, and hopefully, that is the ideal scenario if we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Yes, physiological, kind of emotional, but so it's not their fault that FA and I didn't experience that. And so I said to FA, we need to stop saying that, because I don't want them. We want our children to be grateful, but I don't want them carrying the burden of our pain as we parent them. At the end of the day, it's not they're blessed. They've come into excuse that squeaky door. They've come into a loving family, in a happily married, where now they're like, "Ugh, stop kissing, you're disgusting."
Yeah.
So I don't know if that helped Tasha or didn't help Tasha. Hopefully,
I hope so. Just as FA is joining, he said, "Let me put my makeup on." So you better be deep, bruv. You better be deep. You guys
have got me. You guys have got me on lockdown locks.
He's looking deep, bro. So somebody asked a question specifically, and praise God, that we could get you on even to begin to answer this. It's on the screen. It says, "I would love to hear about how your husband was able to process the traumatic things that you experienced, e.g. rape." And he's right here, praise God, so he can answer.
Well, I think two things. Firstly, the first thing is love, isn't it? Love conquers a multitude of even my own sins, of our own indiscretions, or sins, our own indiscretions. No one's perfect, and when you give your heart to someone, you commit to walking the pain that they walk through. And you see the courage, you see determination, you see resilience. And for me, those are the building blocks of a fantastic relationship. I say to people all the time, you don't judge your relationship based on the good times. You judge a relationship on how you are able to overcome the difficulties. I saw this in my wife. I saw this as I remember the first time she told me, and I remember going through a sea of emotions. The first thing was really compassion. My heart broke. I broke down. Just was crying because I just didn't know how someone could do something to someone so beautiful in my eyes. Not just externally, but internally. So that broke me. And watching her journey, watching her build and discover, helped me build and discover. Watching her talking about her trauma made me think about my own, because we all have a level of trauma that we all have been brought up with. It might not be as extreme as some of other cases, but for me, my story is, I know what it means to be homeless. I know what it means to be on, to be repossessed. I know what it means to live for extended periods of time without your parents. Only you in a place by yourself, as a child, 9 years old. So I think her story really inspired me to be more courageous as she was courageous, and that love for me that I have for her just made it easier. I was watching, and she said she could have them round for dinner, and she's mentioned this a number of times. And I said, they can have dinner, but it's not in my house. You know what I mean? They can have dinner, but watching her be free of that thing has really helped me to be.
This is it.
To support. I hope that helps to answer the question. And
it was better to hear it through you, because I and I know Yas could do an amazing account of how you feel, but to hear it from your mouth directly and your experience just brought it home even more so.
Yeah.
Yas, if you wanted to, I don't know if you wanted to respond or add to what FA said.
I think for me, like, just for the purpose of the question, I think it's just coming alongside that person and loving, like FA said, loving them. I think one of the difficulties is that when you love someone, you naturally want to fix it. I do it all myself a lot in parenting, or even if Efe might come downstairs and he's like, oh, I feel really overwhelmed or really stressed. Because I'm a fixer by nature, I'm like, okay, what can I do? But sometimes someone doesn't want you to fix it. They just want you to listen. Yeah. And kind of one of the things that we've embedded into our relationship and our communication techniques has been like, okay, what do you want me to be? Who do you want me to be? Do you want me to listen? Do you want me to be Superman? Do you want, or Superwoman? Do you want me to help fix it? Do you just want to cry? Like, do you want to talk about the trauma? And no matter how it makes me feel, I'll put that aside. And I think coming alongside the person and just honestly looking them in the eye and saying, I love you, like, I am for you, and I'm here with you if you'll let me in. Because I think that's the other difficulty. When you've experienced, you know, maybe more extreme trauma, to let someone into that pain, that is your sacred space. Like, you carry shame there, like, or have the ability to carry shame there. There's so many questions and processes. So I think for me, for the person, you know, spouse, wife, whatever, for them to or husband, vice versa, you know, for them to be able to say, like, I love you, like, I've got your back. Come high, hell or high water, we're here. Like, we're locking arms in this. And I genuinely have felt that from FA. And that's a difficult thing for me, because I don't let myself be loved very easily. And so I think in the last year that has been it's been a helpful process, because I've now actually realized, hey, no, I deserve to be loved too.
But it also, there is a selfish part of that, because it also allows me to be more vulnerable. It gives me permission to be vulnerable. It gives me also permission to share my pain. And I don't think there's ever true love without real pain.
So vulnerability kind of breeds vulnerability.
Vulnerable accountability is our thing.
Yeah, I love that. Tasha says, thank you so much for answering my question. And I just want to say thank you for sharing your story and allowing me to see an example of where I could possibly be on this journey.
Oh, Tasha!
So if it was,
make me so happy, because I tell you why comments like that mean the world, because we have always shared our story, good, bad, ugly, indifferent. And particularly in kind of church or faith-based contexts, it's not always, it's a bit like, oh, it's a bit untasteful. And so I just feel like I'm very passionate about breaking those things down. And, you know, whether it's me going into school or coming alongside someone and saying, you can do this. I battled something similar and this was my process. And then to know that, you know, just a little bit of conversation can help someone. So thank you, Tasha, for putting that. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and we're believing for healing for you, whatever that looks like, and freedom. It's available. And you can get there, and you will get there.
Lovely. True example of unconditional and non-judgmental love, says Sophia. Hey, Sophia. Teresa P's got a question, and Teresa says, would you be sharing your trauma experiences with your children?
This is a really good question.
Great question.
Because just recently, for example, our oldest son, where we've been on lockdown, I've been having my counselling on Zoom. And I've had my whole process of counselling on Zoom, which has actually been quite incredible. And they were homeschooling the other day, and they're like, who is that person that you are talking to? And he said, is that a therapist? And I said, yeah, it is actually. And he said, well, what is she helping you? And I said, well, you know, Nanny, so my mom, and Nana, because my dad's Pakistani, so they call him Nana, which is granddad in Punjabi. And you know, they didn't have an easy kind of relationship, and there was lots of difficult things. Well, some of that stuff I've just had to process, because we need to feel our feelings, and we need to be able to deal with them as we talk to our children very much about. I think at the moment, in terms of like the rape, they don't know. They know that I've had some difficult things. I think they're only little, like they're so innocent. One day I'll have the conversation, and my son often says to me, but why can't you tell me now? And I say, because, you know, you've got a lot, you know, I want you to live life, and I don't want it to be tainted. Like those things, when you they have the ability, I suppose, to kind of almost like taint their little minds. And I want him to like be as innocent as he can be as a child in a safe home, and worry about what's for dinner, because that's his biggest problem. And he's very sensitive and very kind of, and even our daughter Ellie are like very sensitive to the Holy Spirit, and just she'll know when something's not right, and so they'll take that on board in a way that they just shouldn't. At probably maybe 17, 18, 19, like later in conversation, definitely. And they've heard me, like, you know, when I've spoken at various places, sometimes I will package it in a different way. And so then they hear it in that context. But I'm always very aware that they are only innocent for a very little amount of time. And I think just that innocence of children, for me, for us, I think we've often, you know, I think there's this current thing with parenting, like, oh, so-and-so's my little best friend. And I think it's a cute concept, but we are mum and dad for a reason. And that's not to say that as they get older, because I know Curtis and Juanita, their children are older, but as you get older, I suppose there's an element of friendship that evolves. But no. Go for it.
Not yet.
Yeah, no, sorry. I was just going to say that I think that as a couple, as a family, we like to create safe spaces for people, and our children know that. So our children know that our home is a safe space for people who have trouble to come and talk about it and communicate about that. Our dinner table is a safe space. You know, we try to create an environment where we can talk and share. So they get comfortable with going to some of those uncomfortable places or asking questions. I suppose this is stuff that I never had growing up. And so I sought my solace or wisdom from other people or other places or road or whatever. Whereas we've really tried to create spaces for them and create spaces for others. So I think that they know that conversation and not just surface stuff is actually part of who we are as a family. And even our kids now, when they ask us how they're doing, how we're doing, they really ask that, you know, how are you really doing? You know, as if they kind of already kind of getting the you know, they feel like Yaz was saying, that kind of sensitivity to really ask, how do you really feel? So I think just in time we will share, and I think in time as we continue to create these safe spaces so that they can share their vulnerabilities, they can share their fears or their own pain, that we'll be able to kind of conversate and do it that way. Or if not, we'll pay for their counselling. So we'll pay for the counselling. You know, if we mash them up, then we have to pay for it.
But that leads on to the next question. What counselling or therapist service did you use? If you didn't,
that's a great question. So that was done via our church. We have a really great counselling service at Skylark Church, which is they're based in Chelmsford. But there's a really strong team of people that go to various different. They are Christian counsellors, so they don't kind of ram the Bible down your throat, but their kind of value systems, I suppose, are from that place. But they operate and are all trained counsellors. And honestly, it's just been a really brilliant, great tool for me. And it's worked actually really well over Zoom. Previously, people would go kind of to there's counselling rooms at our kind of church building, and they would go and use them and sit in the rooms together, but they've taken it online, and it's been fine.
My counselling journey.
So what we'll do is we're going to put your.
Sorry, Curtis, go ahead.
We're going to put your link, your handle up for Instagram, so that we can you're happy for people to contact you and ask you. And for your resources. This is what you guys do. So
even if they give us a resource, we can put it in the chat. I can hear the cat crying. Let me just sort him out. A he one day and a she the next. I don't know. What's a cat? She? I'm going to go and sort her out. Give me a second.
That is brilliant. I love that.
I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. You're getting a lot of love here because I think it's
thanks, guys.
Because it's a message of hope, right? I mean, I'm just going to reiterate, guys. I am sure, and I'm good at, and I'd always spoken, I can hear what people aren't saying, and I'm like, I know there's a lot behind in the background of it all, but the fact that you both are sitting here, sharing together, this journey and not apart. That's a testimony in itself. You could be like, she does her thing, I do mine.
Totally.
I want to know.
Sorry.
Describe your marriage as it is.
Oh, that's a great question.
That's a great question. Describe our marriage.
And that's in the light and context of the fact that you've shown us some history.
Yeah. Okay.
Because, and like I was saying again, mathematically, you do not add up, and you are statistically improbable.
Yeah. 100.
Yeah.
We say it all the time at home. We actually will often go, you know what, girl? We're doing all right.
We're doing all right, man.
We do our little
we do our
little handshake and we say we're doing all right.
we
do our little handshake and we're doing all right.
Yeah, we're doing all right.
Do you want to go first?
Describe our marriage. I think that friendship.
100%.
We're friends.
Yeah.
Friends fail each other. Friends take each other for granted. Friends have fun together. But friends always choose each other. Even when you mess up. And we both fail. And there's been big failures in our marriage that maybe we'll save for another conversation, part 2. Better tune back in. But yeah, I think friendship is the thing that kind of keeps us together. I'm preferring one another, and always wanting the best for that individual. Like we have this saying where we have to be each other's biggest cheerleader. And in the morning when I wake up and look to my left, I know that the person laying next to me is for me. Whatever the day throws at me, I know she's for me. I know she's day one. She's my ride or die. I know that whatever happens, because we've gone through the fire. We've been through that. We've been through it.
Yeah.
We've had children that are sick. We've had nearly marital breakdown. We've had cultural clashes. We've had financial difficulty.
Yeah.
We've been through, and we're still friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there is this saying in the scriptures that talks about there's no greater love for a man to lay down his life for his friend. And our marriage is that. We've laid down our lives for our friendship, for each other. So I think
got bars for days, babes.
Come on.
You should put a garage beat around.
Got bars for days.
Come on.
And you know what? Like ride or die was actually going to be my thing. Honestly, like when he was talking, in my heart, I was like, we are ride or die.
Yeah.
Like for me, getting married was the scariest concept because in my mind, when we were doing premarital counselling, probably it took that 8-week course. Like in my mind, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to just save up some secret money in a bank account because when he leaves me for my best friend because he's had an affair with her, then at least I can support me and my children. Like I literally thought that. I've watched my mum, be a single parent, raise 3 kids, financially very, very successful, but then wasn't there emotionally and can't be there for herself emotionally, and also hasn't been able to be there for us emotionally, and that causes problems. And it still has its difficulties today, but I think one of the things that we've locked arms and we've said, you know what? In difficulty, in happy times. Let me tell you this: when lockdown started last year, that was like the second year for us of a really difficult financial time. And in January 2019, so we'd had Saraya, our youngest, in April 2018. We've moved to this house, to a new house in July 2018. Yeah, big mortgage, big project. Felt that God had very much led us here. In the January 2019, FA very unexpectedly got made redundant from a job that he was absolutely excelling at. They were a tech firm, decided to go in a different direction. And we really felt like, you know, entrepreneurship was something that we were really passionate about, and that this was probably, you know, the time where God was like, cool, like let's go on a journey. And we've done like a 2-year faith adventure of building a business as, you know, FA plugging away, but you go on that journey as a team, right? So it's not just him doing the work, you do it as a family. And that first year was very tough. And then heading into lockdown, there were some really great signs of life, and then bang, everything shut down. And I said to FA, do you know what? Like, I feel like we're a year ahead of the game. Like, we'd had a year ahead of a really tough year, and we'd made it through as best friends. We would laugh. Honestly, in the moments that we should be crying, when it makes no sense, we'd just look at each other and burst out laughing. Literally burst out laughing, because we know that somehow it would always, God's got us in his great big hands. But honestly, like the unity that we have built, and that has been almost rebirthed into like what I call kind of like the vulnerable side of our marriage. So those difficult couple of years then birthed the vulnerable accountability side of our marriage, which is having that's a whole other question, but that's asking question number 2 is asking the question that you really want to ask, but that you're scared to ask. So you stick with question number 1. And we have remained the best of friends. There are we've counselled a lot of marriages in this last year, and I think the thing that lockdown has done is made everyone face issues that busyness and church and outside and going out and whatever you do to fill your time, or juggling the kids and all the after school clubs and all the stuff. It made you look at each other and say, do we want to be friends, and are we still friends?
Yeah. Do you know, Kurt and I was reminiscing the other 2 days ago, I think. We were driving past Kensington, and he goes, remember when I went for a job interview in that place and I didn't get it? No, not that you didn't get it. You went for a job interview, and I happened to meet you in it to see if you were finished.
We went down there by train.
Yeah.
And we thought, you know what? Because I'm going to ace this. I'm good at interviews, isn't it? I'm going to ace this. Sorry, did I cut you?
No.
And yeah, man, Juanita's with me. We're going to go Wagamama afterwards. You know what I mean? Turn up at the interview. The agency sent me there an hour late. I said, and it was good money. You know, like when you think God is for you. And you're like, God, what, you're going to whip the thing out of under my feet like that? And so I sat there and I was like, hold on a minute. I believe in God, innit? It
was the first time we didn't, or I didn't lose it. We didn't panic together and go, you were late. Why didn't you do that? We should have gone out. Did you read the paperwork? We just went,
all right, cool.
All right, then, cool. And then we were looking
Don't get me wrong, I'm winded. but I was
because it was a brass time. But then that's when he made the decision and he was going back to uni to study. And you know now he's finished and he's in his career now. But it was like, if we didn't get that interruption, then we wouldn't be that far down the road.
And also, it gave us a new sense of resilience, another level of resilience. Where, so when you're saying, oh, we're going to something else, I don't mind. But when you're saying, someone got John 15:13, I don't know what it says.
Know your Bible.
No, I should know it. That's when you say, now you like, Lord, no matter what happens, I'm good. So like, if you want to allow me to walk 10 miles and then send me back
together.
I know that if I stay the course, he's actually said, you know what? Because next year there's going to be a virus in it. It's going to cause some problems. Do you get what I'm saying? Or next year it's going to be a this or it's going to be a that. But stay the course. And because every time you get knocked down, you don't understand I'm actually making you stronger. But we're upset with God because it's not playing out. I don't want to preach. I'm not a preacher, but guys, here's the scripture, and then you can answer to that. Sorry.
We do know this one by heart. The reference was just far from us. It says, greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friend. That's what you said earlier. Reference that. So it is. I suppose that is what a marriage is.
It is.
Go on, Ofe. Sorry, you're going to say something.
Yeah, as it is that laying down your life for one another. But it's also about commitment. You know, some words we don't really talk about nowadays. You know,
You just copied all my advice from what I gave earlier, yeah.
you know, like I'll be honest. You know, I remember being about 8 years old, living in Plaistow, and my mum and dad are fighting. I can't see the fight, but I can hear.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yep.
Yeah.
You feel me? Yeah.
Real.
I can hear something. I can hear people tussling in the room. To the point where I feel sick, so I go to the bathroom, I throw up. And when you come from a relationship that, and it's funny, I grew older, and I said to my dad, I said to my mum, I said, Mum, like when we were younger, did dad used to hit you? And he was like, your dad, he's never laid a hand on me. I was me busting him up because he's acting some stupidness, he's doing some foolishness. It's me giving him the licks. But as a child, you don't know that. You don't know that. You don't know what's going on. I'm not saying even that's even right. I'm not saying either one of them things is right. But as a child, you hear those things and you relate them to what a relationship could be like.
Yeah.
What normality is like in a relationship.
So come on.
Yeah. So you have to commit to yourself. I remember going for an interview. When I went for an interview, I had a stage where you have like a round of interviews. And you kind of go like an apprentice style knockout round. And I remember one lady, she said, because I'm in sales, and she said, what's your aspirations in life? You know, and everyone in the building would be like, oh, you know, I want to be a millionaire, I want to have my own company, blah, 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 blah. I said some of that stuff. And then I said to her, I want to have a successful marriage. And she like...
In the job interview, bro.
This is a job interview, you know, that. She was like, what? And I said, I want to have a successful marriage. And she said, why did you say that? I said, 50% of marriages fail. Like, I want to be the 50% that actually succeeds. So there was a commitment in my heart from young, going through the things that I've gone through, seeing the things that I've seen, and saying, I don't want to replicate that. I want to deviate from that. And finding someone who's also gone through pain and also gone through something that actually also had the same value of, I don't want to replicate what I've gone through of experience. I want to deviate from that. I want to create something new. So for us, I think, again, it's that coming from different things. And when you find a partner or you find a husband or a wife, you know, I'm a creative individual, and it's like having a blank canvas to paint something incredible if you can dream and believe together.
Right.
And I think that's the thing that helps you stay the course. That's the thing that helps you come and do another year. That's the thing that helps you look back on the time that they mashed you up on you and they really hurt you, but you see what you're building. You can see the generations that are coming after you. Sometimes, like, I sit down and look at my kids and I think, rah, boy. I think, rah.
Yeah.
But if you don't know, you don't know. I know people on this, they know. It could have been different for me, you know? So commitment, thankfulness, gratefulness, and always remember where you're coming from and have a vision for where you're going to.
Come on.
And, you know, I would just say to people who are dating or thinking, is this the right guy? Is this the right girl? You've got to get to a level where you can tap into that for yourself and tap into that for that individual and see, can I build with this person? Can we dream together? Can we vision together? Can we go through difficulties together? You know? So, yeah, man, that's been
commitment.
Our commitment.
And courage.
Whoosh. It's a lot. It's a lot.
I think one of our strengths is knowing that we're on the same team. Yeah. So, Curtis, I think I was watching a clip on the Instagram page the other day. It was and it was something similar to what I'm about to say about the like, you only win. Like, I can't remember who it was, but he said, you win together and you lose together. And one of our kind of core values is that we only win when we both win. It's not a competition. It's not I'm right, you're right. But I said that. Yeah, but I meant that. Oh, well, we got that because of me. We have been on the same team from day dot.
Yeah.
Whether in plenty, in lack, whether food in the cupboard, whether the car's working.
Even when one of us has failed.
When one of us has failed, like we've been the team. Like we always say to our children all the time, teamwork makes the dream work. And honestly, it does. Yeah. Like teamwork makes the dream work, and it's not always who's the front. It doesn't, like, we are a team, and we do. Whether FA's business is successful, I don't think, that's him being successful at work. We are enabling, we create the space for him to be released to do that. Yeah. I like to think that I'm also not a naggy wife. So
no, you're born, man.
Like, so that to be free.
I was watching you on YouTube thinking that woman is fly.
Still rolling with the bars, man. It's not.
So I think the team, because like, these days there's a big emphasis on self and all of that. It's important, absolutely, but I really believe, like, stay in the course. You know.
Yeah. Do you know what we have some questions that we
like statements to finish.
Yeah, so we're gonna ask you. It's a statement you have to finish. You got to finish it. You got to say it in the most poignant and concise way.
All right.
And it's really reflective as well.
Okay.
Here we go. I am. It's on screen if you just want to double check.
Okay, I am.
Yeah.
So do we say one of us or each person?
You go, babe.
Yeah. And then if I can go.
Yeah.
Okay. I am courageous, committed to making my marriage work, and passionate about seeing people overcome trauma.
Family of bars.
It's got to be concise. Come on.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I am.
You don't have to if you can't. We got more.
Nah, this is good. I am courageous. I'm a leader. I am the husband to one wife, the father of 3 children. I am a creative. I'm a pioneer. I'm secure. I'm strong. I'm faithful. I'm committed. Yeah.
I will.
Yeah.
I will. I will continue to work on the things that I have locked away. I will continue to become the best version of myself. I will continue to stay committed and focused to building our family and our marriage, and seeing our dreams come to pass.
Yeah.
Your turn.
Yeah. I will stay committed. I will unlock and unleash the potential in myself, my family, and others. I will create spaces where people feel like they can belong. I will always be true to myself and be true to those around me, even if that causes a little bit of pain.
I hope.
Yes.
I hope that we will continue to be married, happily married, and have fun for however many days that we have together. I hope that our children,
Mm.
I hope that our children know how hard that we worked
Mm.
to make sure our family stayed the course.
Mm.
I hope that one day we will see racial equality and equity
Yes.
across our world.
Yes.
And I hope that Jesus just knows just how much I love him.
Mm.
And I hope that one day I can learn to accept just how much he loves me.
Wow. 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 I hope. Yeah. I hope that I can inspire people to live lives for Jesus. I hope that people can see Jesus in me and our family and our home. I hope my children will be proud of me and us. And I also hope that we'll do this journey forever.
Yeah, and amen to that.
And amen to that.
I have
committed to myself that I am more than enough. I have committed to myself that I am not the trauma that tries to define me.
Wow.
I have a heart of gold.
Yes, you do.
And I have a heart of gold, and I have become comfortable with saying that. In fact, that's the first time I've said it. So yeah. And I have great hopes for our children.
Yeah. I have an amazing wife.
Wow.
Like the best, like real talk. I have an amazing wife. I have an amazing family. I have an incredible God that loves me even when I can't love myself. And I have hope for a brighter future. I have hope. Yeah.
Nice. I need to be kinder to myself. This is a great game. It's probably not a game, but it's very good. It's lucky I'm vulnerable, comfortable with vulnerability in it. I need to be kinder to myself. I need to keep pursuing Jesus, to keep my faith journey alive. And I need to sometimes give myself a pat on the back, because and I need to tell little Yasmine that it will all be okay. Who's going?
I need a haircut. That's what I need. I need a barber, bro. I need a barber right now.
No, they were saying, they were saying, who's cutting? Where is
cutting
it?
Onions in here.
Yeah, who's cutting onions in here? The tears are flowing.
So Efe, I need
the love of Jesus every day. And if I have that, then I've got everything else. Because from that, I have my wife, I have my kids, I have everything. So I just need the love of God every day.
And I just want to quickly testify to the fact that most mornings I actually wake up to him downstairs in this lounge crying his eyes out in worship.
I just told the whole world that.
Yeah, because it's like sometimes in Christianity, it sounds like a trite Christian thing to say. Our bedroom is directly above this lounge, and if I can hear him a lot of the time wailing to God, and I know that is true. I just want to back him up on that. Yeah, it's an easy Christian thing to say. Like, let's talk the real talk.
No, because I think when I feel that I'm close to God, God gives me perspective on everything else. So sometimes I don't. So when I have Him, I have all that I need. And I know that's a really cliche question, but it puts into perspective everything. So when I have love, and I have got my faith, and I have my family, that's all that I need. And it's proven to me. It's proven to me because we've had nothing, and we had Him, and that was all we needed, and everything else went from there. So yeah, that's why I need in my life. I need Jesus' love every day.
Right.
Amen. There was a beautiful saying, there's claps, there was the tears flowing.
It's got a bit crackly your end, I think.
What about us? Are we crackly?
Is it us?
I think it's us.
Yeah, one second. I told you Wi-Fi is killing us lately, man.
Oh, there you go. That's
We're mucked about with the Wi-Fi somewhere.
But where are we? Yeah, that's
just
it.
A lot of beautiful messages of people happy to see you here. Love hearts. Thanking you for the honesty. A example of unconditional, non-judgmental love. Thank you, Efe and Yasmine. This is helpful. Love you both. Such an incredible conversation. Somebody did want to know what the counseling services that you use.
Yeah, they can inbox me and I'll send them the details.
Yeah, so and we are definitely having them both back. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah, man, can't wait.
We come alive when we're together, although we're good individually. But
no, you're good individually. And we want to thank you, Yas, for just opening your heart to spaces that usually remain quiet and damp and dark, and you open it to let the light in, and also to allow other people to look and say, as I said, I've got a belly too, or I've got that space in my head somewhere, or it's in the corner of my heart, and to share the process of your journey. I think the thing that got me the most is that you're on a journey towards forgiveness, which is a demonstration of what our God has taught us to do, and it's in action. And to see in action that you're not just a Christian saying, "Oh, I just go to church, I just go to church," you know what I mean? But that actually I'm putting these principles to work for my own freedom is just something that I have to sit with for a while. Do you know what I mean? As the host, I can't even break down, but you could see me just holding myself together. And I just got to just take time. It's made even my voice like drop a decibel.
Amen. So Juanita is very emotional. So like, the thing is that, it doesn't matter how long we've been married. We're not closed to receiving and learning. And on this show, we come here as facilitators, not as teachers as such.
Yeah, never.
Someone saying, I tuned in at the right time, just saw you all up there, gives me hope. This love is real. And I think this is what love looks like. Love looks like a process. It does not have an end result as such.
Absolutely.
I'm so glad, and I can't wait to get the focus on as well, because there's too much real talk coming, guys. Because when we get together, we will tell you how it is, not how it's just how it's been. We're not here smiling, like you said, Daz. We're not here trying to do an Instagram where we'll start this. If we smile, know what's behind it.
That's right.
That's right.
The process produces a smile.
Of course.
I am very, just very thoughtful and considerate. I'm also considering therapy for myself, because a lot of our childhood experiences were a mirror, Yaz. And to walk into that complete freedom. I mean, we have the transparent conversations already about childhood between us both. It's not new.
Yeah.
But to sit down and invest that time will make a lot of sense why I can't choose Tesco over Asda. Do you know what I mean?
I'm telling you, Nia, honestly, the things that we bury that are deep rooted from those years, you'll be astounded.
Yeah. And so I feel like I want to go in that direction. I mean, I've always thought about it, but not take action.
Yeah.
To just feel at this time and at this space, that's something that I want to do.
Yeah.
Can I just encourage you as well? Whoever's thinking about counseling, there's a scripture that says, out of what's in your heart, the fullness of what's in your heart will come out of your mouth. We take that scripture from trying to find out if someone's got something bad about them or a conflict in other people, or I knew this person was shasty, but actually sometimes we don't know why we do the things we do because we don't even know what's in our own heart.
Yeah.
So it's out of the abundance of your own heart. When you speak, you are actually able to identify, actually, there's something here I didn't even know was in here.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was in here. So having counseling allows you to have that space to speak without condemnation or judgment. I did 2 years of counseling, and it really made me self-aware. Gave me the strength and the tools to navigate my own self. So I would really encourage anybody.
Yeah, on both of us.
Anybody. There's no shame in anything like that. In fact, you will become a better person.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
I love that.
Well, if everyone wants to access your counseling service or from yourselves or from whoever you recommend, this is the Insta handle, Yasmine _Dubois. Guys, we want to thank you so much. Just before you go, guys, do not exit the studio, and we'll talk afterwards behind in the studio.
Sure.
But just before you go, we have a show on tomorrow with Christina Caradise. She's talking about the questions that we're afraid to ask.
Come on, that's my kind of show.
Yeah, she did some gangs work as well, so she does gangs work.
Child sexual exploitation, child predator exploitation,
and she's going into that that question. Married couples, there are questions that we are afraid to ask each other.
Yeah,
and I know you guys can hammer that topic too. I mean,
we're gonna have you back. We're gonna definitely have you back.
Part 2. So tomorrow night 7:30. Yeah, please
Patreon.
be
Patreon.
No.
Yeah.
I think that's it, I don't need to give any special goodbye. To see you guys tomorrow. Oh, actually, you could share and subscribe. People need to know. Are we cracking up here? Can you see and hear us? I don't know. Is it all right?
You're back now.
You're back now, yeah.
And I'm going to complain to Virgin about this. Share and subscribe. Excuse me, my tooth is killing me.
Like, share, subscribe. I'm gonna kick in when he's kicking off. 2 is better than 1.
That's it.
So thank you guys so much. I know we've gone over time massively, but it was so worth it and so needed. So thank you. Much love. We'll see you.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.